I'm afraid you won't accept me completely. Honestly, that fear follows me more than people realize, because when someone loves deeply, rejection feels more dangerous to not only to pride but to heart itself. Instead, I carried this fear quietly through countless conversations, through every late night confession, to sometimes while you laughed, while you spoke softly, to part of me still wondered what happens when you see everything, what happens when nothing hidden anymore. Will your eyes change? Will your voice sound different too? Those questions haunted me, honestly, because acceptance means everything to someone already insecure. And despite how calm I appear, there are still fragile parts inside me, parts scared of abandonment, parts expecting distance too. I think life teaches certain fears through painful experiences, through judgment, through loneliness. Too, mine started long before you, long before love entered my life. I learned early how quickly people change once they discover something unexpected. Sometimes they become colder, sometimes quieter, too. Sometimes they simply disappear. Instead, that kind of loss stays inside someone even years later, too. So when I met you, when my heart slowly opened again, fear opened with it too, because love always creates possibility of pain. The more important someone becomes, the scarier losing them feels too. You became important very quickly, honestly faster than I expected. Suddenly your opinion mattered. Your acceptance mattered too. The way you looked at me could brighten or destroy entire days. That emotional power scared me sometimes, because I'm used to protecting myself, used to staying emotionally guarded too. Then suddenly you arrived, and somehow my walls became weaker, not through force, through gentleness. Instead, you listened carefully. You remembered small details too. You made me feel safe enough to become honest slowly. And honestly, that safety felt beautiful but terrifying too, because once someone knows real version of you, they also gain ability to reject it. That vulnerability kept me awake sometimes. I remember one specific night we talked for hours about future, dreams, fears, to your voice, soft, tired, to mine, nervous. Instead, there were things I still hadn't told you, pieces of myself still hidden carefully, not because I wanted lying, but because fear complicated honesty too. Finally, you noticed silence, asked quietly, "What are you thinking right now?" Honestly, my heart raced because truth stood waiting inside me, yet words felt impossible. I almost changed subject instead, but something inside me felt exhausted from hiding. So finally, I whispered, "I'm afraid you won't accept me someday." There was brief silence afterward, the kind where thoughts become loud. Two, I prepared myself internally for confusion, for disappointment. Two, instead, your voice softened even more, and you asked quietly, "What makes you think that?" Honestly, I didn't fully know. Maybe old pain, maybe insecurity. Two, maybe years spent believing love always conditional instead. I tried explaining how difficult trust becomes after judgment, how difficult self acceptance becomes too when people constantly teach you certain parts of yourself too difficult to love. Instead, you listened without interrupting, without rushing. Me too. That patience alone nearly made me cry because usually when people hear vulnerability, they react quickly instead offering solutions, offering judgment to you simply stayed present and honestly presence sometimes heals more than advice ever could. Eventually you said something I still remember clearly. You don't have to earn acceptance from me. Honestly, hearing those words felt unreal because deep down, I always believed love required performance. Instead, required becoming easier, quieter, better too. I thought if someone saw all my fears, insecurities too, they would eventually leave instead. Yet somehow you looked at my fragility and stayed gentle anyway. That changed something inside me. Slowly I started believing maybe acceptance actually possible. Maybe love doesn't always disappear when truth appears instead. Still, fear hasn't vanished completely. Honestly, maybe it never fully will. Certain wounds heal slowly, especially emotional ones too. There are still moments, panic returns, moments I overthink silence or imagine distance where none exists. During those moments, old fears whisper again, telling me, eventually you'll leave, eventually acceptance will fade too. But then you do something small, something ordinary too. You reassure me gently. You stay consistent. You remind me through actions that love, not temporary, comfort instead. And honestly, those moments matter deeply because trust built gradually through repeated kindness too. I'm afraid you won't accept me yet. Every time you listen, every time you choose understanding instead of judgment, that fear becomes smaller, slowly, not gone, just quieter, too. And maybe that's enough for now. Maybe healing doesn't require perfect certainty. Maybe it simply requires someone willing to stay while you learn believing love again, love again, slowly, because honestly, trust still feels unfamiliar. Sometimes, especially when someone loves me gently, part of me relaxes while another part waits for disaster, instead waits for sudden change, for disappointment too. I hate that fear, honestly. Hate how past pain still influences present moments. Sometimes you'll simply become quiet, maybe tired, maybe distracted too. And immediately my mind starts racing, wondering whether I said something wrong, wondering whether your feelings changed suddenly too. I know that overthinking unfair sometimes. You've never given me reasons to doubt your heart too. Still, anxiety rarely listens to logic, especially anxiety created through old wounds. I carried those wounds alone for very long time before meeting you two. People think fear only comes from rejection, but honestly, sometimes fear comes from finally being loved properly. Instead, because once you experience real connection, losing it feels terrifying too. Before you, I survived loneliness. After you, loneliness feels heavier instead. That realization scared me deeply because suddenly my happiness included another person. Your presence affected my emotions too. Your reassurance could calm entire storms inside my mind too. That emotional dependence frightened me sometimes. I worried about becoming too attached, too vulnerable, too. Yet, no matter how careful I tried becoming, my heart continued choosing you anyway, continued trusting you slowly too. I remember one difficult night where insecurity completely overwhelmed me. Everything emotionally felt heavy too. I kept thinking about future, thinking about all the ways things could fall apart. Instead, eventually I called you voice shaking slightly too. You answered sleepily, yet immediately concerned instead, asking softly, "What happened, baby?" Honestly, hearing that tenderness almost made me cry because even half asleep, you still sounded caring too. I tried explaining my fear, tried explaining how impossible acceptance still felt sometimes, how part of me still expected the abandonment. Eventually, you listened quietly, then said something I'll never forget. You keep waiting for me to love you less, but I keep trying. Love you more instead. Honestly, silence filled my chest afterward. Not painful silence, emotional silence. Instead, because nobody ever spoke to me with that kind of gentleness before. I spent so many years preparing myself for rejection that unconditional care felt almost unreal. I asked you quietly, what if one day you see everything about me, every broken part too? Your answer came immediately. I already see enough, and I'm still here. Those words stayed with me through every future doubt, too, because honestly, being accepted while vulnerable changes people, especially people used to hiding instead. Slowly, I started sharing more, more fears, more truths, two parts of myself previously locked away, and every time you responded with patience, another wall inside me collapsed quietly. I don't think you fully realize how healing that became, because acceptance not only about staying, it's about making someone feel safe while staying too.